Whole You podcast listeners, it's Dr. Janine Krause from the Health Fix podcast. It's a podcast where I talk about tips, tricks, and techniques to have sharp minds, limitless energy, and fit physiques for life. Check out episode 157 of the Happy Whole You podcast, where I talk about personalized wellness for slowing down the aging process. You're listening to the Happy Whole You podcast. Let's introduce you to Dr. Anna Marie Frank.
All right, Sage, thank you for joining me on the Happy Whole You podcast.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, I am super stoked to have you because number one, it's not every day that I meet a chocolatier. And number two, it's not every day that I meet somebody that takes two of my favorite things, chocolate and mushrooms, and brings them together. So just real quick though, can you share with our audience, like, who are you? How did you get to this place? And just kind of the 411 on who Sage is and how Addictive Wellness came about.
Sure, I had the good fortune when I was younger to grow up in a fairly wellness-oriented family. My parents didn't have the knowledge that is available today in terms of nutrition and supplementation, et cetera, because we're not in the 90s anymore. We have internet and we have, so many resources available to us. But they were doing the best they knew at the time. And when I was a teenager, they opened a wellness center in Southern California. And they had infrared saunas way before that became the cool thing that it is today. And they
Yeah.
had infrared heated jade massage beds, and they were selling some nutrition and products there as well. And so growing up in this space, I got pretty inspired because I would see people come in who were in their 40s, 50s, 60s, already on the decline of health. They believed in this great idea from the East of prevention rather than waiting till you get sick and trying to find a cure. But it was clear that they hadn't done that early enough
Mm.
because they were trying to use holistic methods to get better. But the fact is, they were looking for a cure, even if from a more holistic and wellness focused rather than pharmaceutical mainstream medical perspective. But I saw them get better. I saw people with back pain, prostate issues, stress, sleep issues, whatever it was. They were coming in and experiencing huge benefits. And I was, working the front desk and hearing about it as I was talking to these people every day. And
I want to know because I have a son.
yeah,
When did you start working the front desk? Like, when did you start really like working in the family business?
um, well, my family had other businesses before that I was already working in when I was like 11, but
Okay.
this particular business, I started working there when I was 14.
Okay, cool. My son is
Yeah.
14 right now. And so,
Oh, fantastic.
I feel like he kind of observes, he kind of looks and he sees and he hears the stories. And he's at the point now where I've had him work a couple times, just like cleaning things up, starting the biocharger for people and doing things like that. So you're giving me hope that he might go the route of natural.
Yeah, and I think for him to be around that in the mix and interacting with people, regardless of, I mean, if it takes him down a healthier path in life, amazing. But also, I think just to get good at interacting with people is such a
Mm,
benefit for whatever you're
yeah,
going to do. And
yeah.
in this modern reality where everybody's living behind a screen, if something,
Yeah.
nudges him into more real time human reactions, amazing.
Yeah, totally. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. All right,
No,
keep
no problem. Please interrupt as much as you like. It's a natural flow of conversation, and I don't want to go on an excessively long monologue if there is a conversation to be had. So I was growing up, kind of seeing all of this, and it got me thinking. Okay, I see these people getting better, but what happens if you don't wait until you get sick?
going.
What would happen for what would it mean for my overall life experience if I got on this stuff now? What would it mean in terms of my longevity? What would mean in terms of how long I can stay physically fit and active? And like for me, the big driving motivation was surfing. I loved surfing and I still do love surfing. And I was thinking, okay, I see people slow down in their surfing around their mid 30s. I see people stop surfing around maybe late 50s, early 60s. What if I can stretch that out and keep improving my surfing and peak around 45, 50, or who knows when, and extend my surfing way later in life and then live a long life, have awesome, everything and see the world evolve? I didn't know what this path would exactly look like, but I was curious because I didn't see anybody else doing this. I didn't have any examples. I only saw people who waited till they got sick, then took the natural health route, which is certainly, like I said, better than the alternative. But
Hmm.
I wanted to know, instead of shifting from sick to basic wellness, what happens if you're starting at sort of basic wellness and then get on all this right now? How far in the ultra positive direction can you go? And so I was using the infrared saunas, using the infrared massage beds, taking some of the supplements they had there. And then I started making these superfood smoothies. I had this mix that was made by a local gentleman who made this thing of like hemp protein, spirulina, chlorella, some other Western herbs like milk thistle in there. And I didn't know what I was doing. I would just blend this up with some maca powder, some frozen fruits, some like Tropicana orange juice. I was just experimenting, and it tasted pretty horrible, but I didn't care. I was going to drink it because I wanted to get results. I wanted to see what was possible. And I kind of just turned off my taste buds for a little while and went for it. And after time, you get used to pretty much any flavor. And so
Yeah.
I forgot how bad it tasted. And a few years went by, and I was on a surf trip with some friends in Costa Rica. And they would go out and surf for a few hours and then come back in and be tired and want to eat and rest. I would want to go out for 4, 5, 6 hours in the water. And they saw me kind of in the corner of the place we were staying with my little magic bullet travel blender, making these little smoothies for myself twice a day. And I never wanted to push this on anyone. This was in college. And, you don't want to be the weirdo who's
Yeah.
making people feel bad about their health decisions, which generally people are not making the greatest health decisions during college years. This is the height of the prescription painkiller epidemic. And
Yeah.
of course, everybody's drinking heavily. But they saw what I was doing and they said, "Hey, could you maybe make us one of those before we go back out in the water this afternoon?" And this is kind of the moment I'd been waiting for, because you can only go so far in getting healthy before you want to share this with the people that you care
Right.
about.
Totally.
And so I made them each a drink. And the thing is, when some people are really, really toxic, they and you take something that's powerfully detoxifying, those toxins are going to take the fastest route back out of the body. And often that's
Yep.
the way they came in. And so of the four of them, three of them were vomiting within the next 5 minutes.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so major Herxheimer reaction, as it's called. And I realized, this did not go the way I expected. They hated the flavor. They were obviously vomiting, so the experience was not overall very positive. It didn't stick around in their body long enough for them to feel any good stuff. I get to rethink this. And so I thought, okay, I need to figure out, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to go to the opposite end of this spectrum. Whereas now it's the worst tasting thing in the entire world and people would have to choke it down. I want to figure out how to make health and nutrition taste so good and be such an amazing food experience that people will have it just because it tastes awesome. And then it
Mhm.
just so happens to be massively healthy as a side effect or an afterthought. And so it was sometime later that I started learning more about cacao and raw chocolate as a source of some of the greatest nutrition in the world. And it was weird to me because growing up, cacao, or the cocoa as I knew it at the time, was like Hershey's hot
Right.
cocoa
The
that
powder
yeah, that you would have maybe with breakfast,
or the
every
liquid.
now and then. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or like the syrup that you would squeeze in. And I knew this wasn't healthy. And so when I saw that at my parents' wellness center, they were starting to carry cacao powder, I was like, That's a superfood? That's good for you?" There was
It's
a big
chocolate? What?
clash happening in my mind. And as I learned more about it, being the highest natural source of magnesium, the highest natural source of antioxidants, great for chromium, iron, zinc, phosphorus, so much more. And then also really interesting neurotransmitters like anandamide and phenylethylamine, things that make you feel blissful. I started to realize, wow, this is a lot more going on here than I ever could have expected. And I saw it as kind of a gateway health food because it is something that exists both in the worlds of foods that are not good, but that people love eating, and foods that are really healthy. And but in this really healthy world, generally people say, "Oh, I'm eating it because it's healthy, but it's not an epic food experience." And so I thought, okay, if this is done right, if you have really pure cacao, and you prepare it in a way that doesn't interfere with that, potentially even make it sugar free so people who are dealing with sugar sensitive conditions can still enjoy it. And then I took my other passion for traditional herbal systems of indigenous cultures and wanted to combine that in here because you have these herbs, especially mushrooms. Like the best example is reishi mushroom, super bitter in flavor, and the
Yeah,
bitter
it
compounds in
really
there
is.
are those are the beneficial compounds in there. So if the reishi is not bitter, it's not doing much for you.
Mhm.
So I realized that in the West, people have been trained out of bitter flavors. We don't have many bitter flavors left in our diet. They've
That's
been
right.
bred out of the food supply through breeding over hundreds of years. So people aren't used to that kind of flavor. If you get people from other parts of the world, they enjoy bitter flavors. My partner is from Hungary. She loves bitter flavors, sour flavors, but we didn't grow up with that palate in the
Mhm.
US.
Yeah.
But weirdly, the one bitter flavor people seem to have accepted is chocolate. They're okay with that bitter. And I realized you can camouflage a lot of the bitter flavors of these herbs underneath the chocolate and kind of
Mhm.
sneak it in Trojan horse style, and people will be none the wiser, except that they feel really wonderful. So that was the realization of me wanting to make a sugar-free herbal chocolate that would kind of be this gateway health food. And I started just as a hobby, then it turned into sharing it with more friends, more family, and eventually it's like, okay, I think we're ready to really build a business out of this. And that was about 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, and I love it. You sent me some, and I have all your packaging here, and, like, the other day, I took the immunity chocolate, and I will pick the kids up from school. And so when I pick them up from school, they may get a kombucha, they may get a banana, like an apple, like something that's fast food to me,
Right.
you know?
The
And
original fast food.
I was like so excited because I was like, oh, this is perfect. And so they were so surprised. I was like, okay, get your seatbelts on. I have a special treat for you. And they're like, "Oh, because the special treats from mom are, not that exciting." And, I handed them each a piece of this chocolate, and they were like their eyes got so big, and they were so excited, and they ate it, and they were like, "Oh, this is great." And so I told them that, I'd been sent these and that it's healthy for us, and so it was just cool to share that experience with the kids. And then, like I shared with you, my friend owns a restaurant and she came over to the center and I was like, "Hey, try that," because she has like a palette of taste. Like she can close her eyes and taste any plate and pick out. And she actually co-hosts this podcast with me sometimes, Heather. And she can like taste so many things. Like she knows how to make stuff taste absolutely delicious and amazing, and she likes using all local ingredients as much as possible. So anyway, so when she tasted your chocolate, she was like, "Wow, this is so good." And I'm like, "Yeah, there's like mushrooms in here," and
Oh,
like,
that's so sweet. That's so kind
you
of her. That's a
know.
huge compliment.
So yeah, and I mean, it's just yeah, your product is beautiful. So okay, so then I wanted you to share. So you realized 10 years ago, you're like, okay, this can be a business. And your business is called Addictive Wellness. What made you come up with Addictive Wellness?
A couple of reasons. There's a few different simultaneous stories behind the name. So one, we wanted a name that would go with kind of Seth Godin's purple cow theory of you're driving along the road and you see, okay, there's another normal cow, normal cow, normal cow. If you see a purple one, it's going to jump out at you. We wanted something that would jump out. And there's another factor behind it as well, which is the idea that we want people to think, okay, I can actually become hooked on stuff that's
Yes.
actually good for me. It doesn't have to be just, cigarettes, alcohol, and all kinds of drugs. You can be really focused on a daily basis things that are going to promote your wellness. And then the more interesting part of it is the origin of the word addict or addiction, which is the Latin word addictionem, which originally meant to be devoted, as into one's loved ones or one's God. And it wasn't until heroin came around and people would develop this devotional relationship to the drug heroin that the meaning of this word shifted. So it's also harkening back a little bit to that original meaning and the idea that you can be devoted to your wellness.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you have a unicorn on here.
Yeah, the unicorn was it's another cool factor of that is that the unicorn, of course, is a symbol of purity and longevity, but also the horn of the unicorn traditionally was said to be made of a substance called alicorn, which was able to detect poisons and turn them into healing elixirs. And that's what we try to do
Ah.
with our company. We try to take the stuff that's traditionally, or in the modern world, anyways, bad for you, and find it and turn it into something that is a healing elixir.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Now, okay, can you share just a little bit about your bars, the chocolate bars, and what's in them? Like the potency, like what's in them? How much should people eat in a day? What are the underlying benefits that they're going to actually, have over time? And I know sometimes, I always tell clients, like, it's not like all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, "Oh, I'm like better. Oh, this or that." These are like subtle changes that change your biochemistry over time that are nourishing your cells and all that. But what is specifically what's in the bars, and how much do people enjoy in a day? And is there a limit? Can we eat too much? I mean, because this
There's
is
gonna be a there's
chocolate.
gonna be a limit with anything. Even something as innocuous as water, which everybody would agree is a good
Right,
idea to
right.
drink water. If you start drinking 10 gallons a day and you get the dose dramatically wrong, you're not going to feel so great and you're going to run into some health issues. So, with anything, even the purest chocolate, there is going to be an upper limit. But the cool thing is that with something like this, your body's not turning to it for a sugar hit because the sugar is not there, even though it does taste sweet. And so you still mentally get that pleasure.
Mhm.
But it's so nutritionally dense that people consume significantly less of it than they would with a conventional chocolate. They're satiated way sooner. And some of the compounds in cacao, including theobromine, which is a cousin of caffeine that doesn't stimulate the central nervous system the same way that caffeine does, it has appetite inhibiting effects. So this is something that you eat that actually really makes you want to eat less. So you tend to not eat that much of it. And like, for example, our serving size that we recommend on the label is less than half the standard FDA recommended serving size for a chocolate product. So they
Mm.
normally say 50 grams is a serving size. With ours, it's 24 because we found that not that many people are eating more than that. Some people do more. Some people have a whole bar. Some people, their body is really calling out for that magnesium, but it's going to vary person to person because people have different genetics, first of all, in terms
Mhm.
of how they're going to metabolize things like caffeine, theobromine. People will be at different states of nutrition, and people will be at just dramatically different states of health from one person to the next. So, as with anything, there's a little bit of self experimentation and listening to your body and fine tuning that's going to be required with anything because there's no one dose or one serving size that's going to be able to copy and paste across the population. But in our chocolates, we wanted to really build the ultimate chocolate bar from a flavor and benefit and health perspective all at once. So it starts with the cacao and where that's coming from. So there's a wide spectrum of quality of cacao out there. You could have cacao coming from West Africa, from depleted soils, grown on a farm with questionable labor sources. And it's the cacao itself is a small tree. It's a hybridized variety that's been bred to produce maximum yield without necessarily regards to the quality of what you're producing. We go to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. The cacao that we use represents less than 1% of all the cacao in the world. This is an heirloom variety called Riba Nacional that grows wild. These aren't grown on a farm, it's not grown on a plantation. We work with a network of people that have access to these wild lands where cacao grows, and they're going out and harvesting it and bringing it back for processing. And so this is something much more robust. These trees are between 20 and 80 years old, and they're growing in volcanic soil. And I think when something's wild grown, it's just going to be more robust from a genetic or an epigenetic perspective because it's out there in the survival of the fittest. It doesn't have a fence and chemicals and farmers and fertilizers and all this to protect it. It's out there in the jungle where everything is competing for all these natural resources with it. So it's going to be more robust and to me a little bit more special. And then through very small batches and low temperature processing. We avoid heating this too high. So some of the heat sensitive compounds that you would potentially lose in the roasting and the grinding process are protected. And something that's also unique about this cacao is that it's third party tested to be free of mycotoxins. And this is something that
Mm,
fortunately a lot more people are becoming aware of as a
yeah.
pernicious byproduct of mold. And it's a huge problem in the chocolate world that almost nobody, I would say nobody, but I'm somebody, I
Yeah.
talk about it, almost nobody really talks about. And so this is something that we also love sharing with people who have been told, oh, you can't have chocolate anymore because you're a mold sensitive person, maybe genetically, or because you spent time in a moldy house, you develop a lot of reactivity to mold. This is completely free of these mycotoxins. And of course, ultra low in heavy metals as well. That's been a big area of conversation in the last year.
Yeah.
For example, we have um, barely detectable lead and arsenic just above the like lowest levels that the labs can even detect. No mercury. Cadmium works out to about 12% of the EPA's safe level that they set for cadmium. So ultra low in the heavy metal department as well. And then from there, we add the extra magic into it. So we keep it sugar free. We're actually in the transition right now from a recipe that we've used for a long time to an upgraded one. So we historically have sweetened with birch xylitol and a special non-bitter organic stevia, which has been great. People have loved it very much. Now that some new things are becoming available, we've adapted the recipe over the last couple of years of research and development, and now we're transitioning to sweetening it with organic allulose and organic monk fruit. And
Mm.
this is hopefully going to open up things flavor wise to an even wider audience. It's, I would say, just as healthy, if not healthier, and tastes even better and doesn't affect blood sugar. And a lot of people hear about monk fruit as a sweetener these days, but they don't realize it's actually a traditional Chinese herb that's been used as a lung
Mhm.
tonic going back hundreds and hundreds of years. And then in each chocolate, instead of having different flavors, whereas some people might do a mint chocolate, an almond chocolate, a walnut chocolate, and go in all these directions, we wanted to focus on the herbs. This is, a huge area of passion for me. So I wanted them to be the stars of the show. So in each chocolate, we put a different herbal formulation focused on a different function. So we have energy, beauty, tranquility, immunity, love, focus, recharge, which is for HPA axis, adrenal supportive health. And we also do a pure chocolate for women who are pregnant or breastfeeding and can't consume these herbs, or anybody who just wants a super pure chocolate and is not ready for the adventure of the adaptogen world yet. But so the idea is you can get in touch with your body and see, what do I really need to work on right now, or what would I really enjoy? Not just from a flavor perspective, but in terms of how I feel in my body, because we want to support that cultivation of internal awareness.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, it's so good. And I know for me, one square, and I actually keep these in the fridge because I like
Uh-huh.
my chocolate cold. I don't know if anyone else
Ah,
there likes their chocolate. I like it a little bit cold. Um, I don't know if that's right or wrong, but
it's if you enjoy it that way, you enjoy it that way. It's going to taste different because of that. So when chocolate is colder, it's not going to melt in your mouth as fast. It's going to be a little harder to bite, and it's
Mhm.
going to release the flavor more slowly. It's going to taste a bit more bitter that way.
Yeah.
And if you're storing it in the fridge, best to keep it in a Ziploc bag so the humidity in the fridge won't shorten the shelf life. If you have it at more room temperature, it's going to be more melting your mouth more quickly, and it's going to release the flavor faster, and it's going to taste sweeter. So it's all
Mhm.
personal preference.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just they're so good. So the other day we had the immunity bar, and then the recharge bar is the one Heather had, and I had a bite of it as well. It's just it's so good. So um and I do think that people that struggle with that 2 to 3 p.m. and they go for like a Snickers bar,
Yeah.
I would strongly encourage people to pick this bar up and just do that one replacement. Like, just instead of going for that Snickers bar or the handful of M&Ms on, someone's desk in the office or whatever, um, just substitute this and this bar for that, and yeah, you will find that like, you don't need that much. Like, it's so enjoyable and it's so satisfying that you like a little bit, but if you do eat the whole bar, it's like, whatever, not it's not the end of the
Yeah.
world.
Right. It's
Not gonna
not.
have to go
It's funny
run.
because we're so accustomed to these Western foods that are or modern processed foods for a lot of people that are designed to always keep you wanting more.
Mhm.
They're designed to be maximally satisfying and not satisfying at the same time. So you always need one more chip. You always need one more bite. You,
Yeah.
and we've done the complete opposite in that we try to make it maximally satisfying in the smallest amount as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great. It really is great, and you feel good when you have it. It's enjoyable. It's not like you don't feel like you're overdoing it, and, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely amazing. So,
Thank you.
Sage, can you share with everyone, where they can find you, where they can order these bars? Because you guys really need to get these. They're so delicious, for real. Where can they find you? Where can they get the bars, and how can they connect?
So if you guys want to hear me talk more about the things I'm obviously very passionate about in terms of nutrition and wellness and adaptogens and cacao and superfoods, we have a YouTube channel. You can do youtube.com/addictive wellness, and we're uploading there multiple times per week and would love to connect with you there. And then if you want to try some of the chocolates and our adaptogens and cacao and other things, you can check our website out at addictivewellness.com.
Awesome. Are you on Instagram at all?
We are, yes, Instagram as well, absolutely uploading there too.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
like all the things. I wanna make sure everyone
Right. You can find Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever you are, we're there sharing
okay,
as much free education with you as we possibly can.
good, because I want people to connect with you because you are a wealth of knowledge and you guys are putting out some good stuff, and, I think, just the fact of how you guys source and really take the time to create not just a good product, but an insanely healing, respectable on all energetic and physical levels product. And I think more people like you and your company, we need to get them out there because this fast farming, this fast food, this is literally killing us and destroying our health and our biology. And I know as a creator of the product, you're not going to claim that this helps or heals anyone. But I'll speak from experience that putting these types of raw materials, um, the changa, the lion's mane, these different healing mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, cacao, and putting them in my body for a period of time has really supported my adrenals, has really supported my hormones, has really supported me in so many ways. So when I get wind of a product like this that's on the market and the fact that you've been in business for 10 years and I've been in wellness for the 10 years, 20 years, and I'm just now hearing about this. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, we need to spread the word and get this out there." Because like I said, what if we just switched out our Snickers bar or our Milky Way or whatever bar you're eating with one of these and just try it for, like, 30 days? I mean, I can't imagine you wouldn't lose, like, 3 to 4 pounds, and that because I just think of the calorie and how the body metabolizes these 2 very different products, and the inflammation that is caused by a traditional candy bar and this product. The inflammation is gonna start going down in the body, and, I mean, I believe that. So I'm gonna say those things
Thank
because
you.
I believe those things to be
Thank you for
true.
saying what
Sage
the
did
FDA
not
doesn't
claim
let me.
them. He is not claiming that. But I just speaking from experience and the ingredients that they're using is just outstanding. So you guys go connect with Sage and Addictive Wellness and just connect with them and I don't know, place an order, give it a try, see if you like it. It might be for you, it might not, and that's okay. So Sage, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.